Hello everyone! The final part of the half anniversary event is finally here with the final Rose banner featuring Flocke and Sue-El. Flocke is an absolutely fantastic unit and I will get into everything about her in a bit, but first I have a couple things to talk about. One, they announced a lot of changes on the JP server that I want to go over here real quick, and we also have a ton of new features and quality of life changes on the global version as well. So I will get to the JP changes first, the important ones. So they made this news post the other day, and they're basically changing a few things related to gem income and the gacha system as a whole, and overall there are good changes. So right here we have a change to daily login and weekly missions. We're getting 500 gems every 10 days for daily login and an extra 200 gems for weekly missions for a total of 300. And this ends up being about 2,300 extra gems per month, which is pretty good. As free-to-play, you will get legend medals much faster this way, just more pulls. Very cool. As you can see here, 500 gems on the login, 300 gems on the weekly. And then we also have a focus system for the gacha. And I don't exactly understand specifically how this is going to affect the rates until this update comes on JP. I will make a video then once we actually have full info on it. But basically, you can select 2 characters in 1 Memoria or 1 character in 2 Memoria to get boosted rates for your gacha pulls. And supposedly it's 1%. I don't know if this is 1% for all 3 combined or for them separately. If it's separately, it would be really busted. If it's combined, it's still very good. But yeah, we will be getting focus for gacha, which is really nice. You can fill in those missing Memoria, like Masterpiece or anything good, or characters you don't have, like on JP. I'm absolutely sending this onto Ample and like Rosefile because I don't have them. So very good. And then they will also be adding Sparks for Memoria, which is a much requested feature for a long time. The Memoria Sparks will only be available during that Memoria's banner. So it's not going to be like characters where you can spark anything you want at any time, but still very good. Will let people, especially people who spend, pick up Memoria much easier because right now it's in a pretty bad state. And the final important thing is they are removing the daily free gacha, and I don't really like this personally. Not really because it's like really good, but because it's the thing that's most fun to me to look forward to for my daily logins. Like when I'm not actively, you know, doing content in the game and just logging in daily, doing dailies, the daily gacha makes that a lot more fun. It's a much better experience, and it's nice to just like look forward to, you know, hanging on and maybe getting a character at the very end. They are replacing it with a system where if you log in 5 times during a banner, you will get 10 tickets for that banner. So they're not just removing it for nothing, but I do think the game is going to be worse for this change. Overall, all of these changes are net positive, but I hope they walk back the daily gacha decision. But yeah, that's it for the JP changes. Don't want to spend too much time on those. Next, we have all of the new stuff on Global. First thing I'm going to go over is Emblems. So emblems are basically just little trophies you get for doing things in the game. You know, like you can see that I already have these ones for research, and they give just small bonuses for player power based on the rank. A lot of them are very, very, very grindy. Like, where's the stamina one? Like this one's 30,000 stamina, and the gold one's 300,000 stamina. And a lot of these grindy ones aren't retroactive either. We have like, get 700 pies, which is a year worth of pies, and, you know, synthesize a bunch of items, like 5,000 accessories. Like, they're pretty dang grindy. But you just get them over time. They're really small bonuses. You don't need them that badly. They're just kind of nice to have, and they're a fun little like collection achievement system, I guess. We will also have event emblems starting with Academy, which will require getting SS rank on the EX battles. So maybe they won't be missable though, because the events will be added permanently eventually, but if you did miss them during the event, you won't have them until then. So that's something to think about, maybe not necessarily look forward to. But yeah. Emblems are okay. They're just okay. They're not a super great system, but they're nice little rewards. And then we have Exploration. You're going to want to set this up as soon as possible. It's making me go through the tutorial. You just pick a dungeon, put characters, just auto select is fine. You want to get the bonus as high as possible. So I'll just go select like this. I have, you know, bonus characters here. Swap this. And just get the ones where you have as many of the bonus characters as possible. It scales based off the character bonus and the stars you have for them. So and you can't use a character more than once, so you want to make sure there's no overlap between the 3 dungeons you pick. And then it'll auto you just press auto, it gives you all the recommended characters, and you will slowly get materials and stuff from these. In my experience, the materials aren't the main reward for this. You don't really care, it's really slow. You don't really care about the materials, you just want to get as much bonus as possible, because you will get like 500 blue candy every single day with high bonus, and you also have a chance, a very low chance, to get like 1,000 gems or 30 cookies. And when I say low, I mean very, very, very low. I have not received that rare chance for the gems on JP after like 3 months of doing this, but basically to me this is something where you just get as high bonus as possible, then you set it and forget it, and you pick it up like once a day when you do your dailies. So it's just nice passive income of candy and money and a few materials, but the materials aren't really super important from it. You don't get very many, so like if you want materials, you're better off specifically targeting them. So it's mostly good for all the other rewards. And we should have a few more things, not the mail, the notifications. We have, so we have power for equipment, and we also have leader skills and simple synthesis. So I'll go over all of these. Simple synthesis first. This is a little bit of a weird one. When they first announced it, people thought it was going to be like bulk synthesis. It's not. You can do synthesis in bulk with it. But basically what it is, you can, you know, synthesize as much as you want in bulk, but you cannot choose the traits that go into it. So the random traits are per item. They're determined by the item. So you can see here, these are the traits that can show up. You can get enhanced damage buff and any of these. If it's yellow, you cannot get that trait twice. If it's white, you can get it twice, so you can get double skill power with this. It's good for people who might not have raise for breaker gear. You can go simple synthesis. It's possible to get physical stun damage twice. That's very good, of course. And let's see. There's just a few cases like that. It's mostly for newer players or players with smaller character pools to potentially, you know, get traits that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. If you do have, you know, optimal characters for a given synthesis, the simple synthesis is just going to be worse for you. It's better to use characters if you have them. So one thing that's a little bit interesting is it can be useful for, say, battle items because it can't give dead traits. But it also gives you a really large trait pool, so it's not really that good in practice. You're just better off making them with characters once again, for the most part. So, interesting concept. Most people won't find much use in it, but if you just want to waste mana, it's a good way to do that very quickly, I suppose. And the next thing is the item power, or the item quality, which I believe they said they added. We also got some menu updates, which is pretty nice. We have shop and wish down here, a bunch of things added to this menu. Access the container over here. And yeah, so items have quality now, which is this number right here. It doesn't really mean anything. Like a 400 is going to be something with perfect like damage traits. So like skill V, crit V is going to be 400. And everything else, like it really doesn't matter. Higher quality on your items does mean you get higher team power, but team power isn't really a metric that determines your team's strength. the system is kind of just to tell people, like, to nudge them towards the better damage traits, and it doesn't really do anything else. You do get, like, decent points for, I think, good breaker gear, but it only goes up to, like, where even is my good breaker gear? Yeah, it doesn't go up very high, and it's also dependent on the base itself, whether it gives much quality. Like, this supporter item gets, you know, decent quality because it has damage buffet on it. But overall, kind of ignore these numbers. Just get the traits that you think are good. They're really arbitrary. They don't really mean much. They don't affect your... The number itself doesn't affect your team's strength. You might have a high number because the item is good, but the number itself doesn't do anything for you, so... Pretty ignorable system. And there was one more thing, right? Oh, right. They changed auto so that you can turn items on and off, which is pretty good. Funny thing about the auto changes is when they introduced this change on JP, they also completely changed the algorithm for auto itself, the AI, and it was completely unusable. It was so bad. So JP beta test server, Global doesn't have to deal with that because they reverted it on JP because so many people complained about it. Like, auto was completely unusable when they initially made this change on JP, and Global gets this change without that. Yeah. So, good for Global. And I guess we will get to the characters. First, I'm just going to buy the tickets. I do recommend buying tickets for the Flocke banner. The Memoria is super good. Flocke is super good. Once again, I always have to say this, if you buy these tickets, they are only usable on this banner. If you buy these tickets for Flocke's banner, you have to use them for this banner. You cannot save them. So, gonna go ahead and get those. And let us move on. Alright, so first off, the Memoria. This is one of the best Memoria in the game. It's very similar to our Masterpiece Memoria from the Liddy banner, which gives skill damage to all of your attackers. This one is pretty similar, except it gives crit damage instead while equipped to a supporter. So it's really good if you happen to get it. I would say in many scenarios, it's a bit worse than our Masterpiece, but if you don't have our Masterpiece, that doesn't really matter. It's pretty even in general, with probably being a bit worse, mostly because this one can only be equipped to a supporter, while our Masterpiece can also be equipped to like defenders, like Totri, which really helps. But the 28% crit damage boost on this Memoria at rank 5 is very good, and this is one of the few Memoria that is worth spending memory crystals on, in my opinion. And the big reason for that is this scales with damage buff A. So you put this on a supporter with full damage buff A gear, and this 28% goes up to 70%. So you're giving the equivalent of more than a rank 5 crit damage trait to your entire team. So, or to your attacker. So very, very, very strong Memoria here. Absolutely worth it. Also for Roseval, if you're trying to maximize Roseval's burst damage, this is better than our Masterpiece because skill damage isn't super high value on Roseval for like Roman tournament and stuff. So if you're focusing on Roseval team, this one will end up being significantly better than Masterpiece because skill damage is at in excess on that build, while crit damage is at more of a premium, whereas it's kind of the opposite for Izana, where you have an excess of crit damage on Izana, but not quite enough skill damage. So yeah, very good Memoria here. Also very cute art with Izana stealing the fish. I like this one. But yeah, very good. Absolutely worth pulling for, even as free to play, in my opinion. It is that strong, so. And of course we have Flocke, the star supporter of the game. She is just incredibly strong. Now, there are a couple caveats about her power, but I'll get into that after going over her skills. And we also have leader skills. I didn't really go over them too much earlier, but every character has a leader skill now, and so we will be including leader skills in a character's evaluation. Now, Flocke's leader skill isn't particularly good. Leader skills are kind of based on character tags. So Flocke gives physical attack and magic attack for each merchant you have in your party. And you can see the character tags right over here. Each character has tags. Flocke has Lantarna, family and friends, merchant, and chef. And you can see the merchant characters here. Most teams aren't going to have too many of these merchant characters, but if you do, say, have Resna's and Corny or whatever, Flocke's leader skill gets a lot better. But in a team without any of those characters, her leader skill is pretty bad. But overall, like, they don't change the evaluation of a character too much, in my opinion. Leader skills, to me, are something that you don't really build around. You kind of just put a team together, and then you pick the leader skill based on those from those characters that fits the team the best. You don't really go out of your way to fit a specific leader skill in the team, in most cases outside of initiative, which I will cover as well. But yeah, Flocke, she's pretty good. First off, her passives, I don't really like this Rose passive, but it's still nice to have sometimes. I've talked about this many times in the previous Rose videos. But her other passive is very good. Just 10% to all attack and defense stats is really strong. It's very good defensively, it's very good offensively. It scales its buff effect, which we have very good strike supporter gear for buff effect, so really nice passive here. It does way more than you think it does. 10% to all of these stats is just really, really good. And her skill 2 is a area heal skill with a buff, similar to Liddy. The buff is 25% critical damage boost, with a max of 50%, so you can't go past 50% on this. However, it is permanent, which is really, really nice. So if Flocke dies, or you have to use a different one of her skills, as long as you've cast the skill once, everyone has the critical damage boost for the rest of the battle, which is really, really nice. And yeah. Are you concerned about the audio? I hope it's fine. We'll see. But yeah. That critical damage boost is really nice, and she also just has a massive amount of healing. When the target's HP is below 70%, which it usually will be if they actually need healing, you get 100% increased HP recovery. Really, really strong there, so really good damage buff, competitive with Liddy, and basically double Liddy's recovery. Flocke heals for so much. Really, really, really good. Her skill 1 is a crit rate boost. It's also permanent like the crit damage one from her skill 2. However, it only scales up by 10% at a time, capping out at 100. It's pretty slow ramp on this. You don't use it in most cases. And her burst is an area attack with guaranteed crits, and it also applies critical damage received up to the target permanently. So once again, a very strong ability. The guaranteed crit rate on this means it's very possible to give Flocke like skill power and stuff, like damage gear, and have her pull her weight as a damage character in some cases, because it hits all enemies. There are situations where this is useful, like certain Roman tournament strats or some other things. So that alone is really strong, and then it also, you know, increases your damage. So, but the main thing here is just how much her skill 2 recovers. She is just the best area healer in the game with a ton of damage to boot, so really good buffer, really good healer, just a very strong unit. Now, there is one little caveat here, and that's kind of that. So compared to Liddy, right? She's the same niche as Liddy. When you compare her to Liddy, the main benefit to having Flocke over Liddy is, in a lot of cases, this passive and the healing. When you compare the damage, it's kind of a wash between the skill 2s, and Liddy's skill 1 and burst are better damage-wise than Flocke, but Flocke gets that double healing. So in many cases, Flocke is a bit of a side grade, and if you have Liddy, you don't necessarily need to chase her, even though she is very good. But if you're, you know, worried about conserving your gems, it's not necessarily required to chase after Flocke. However, having both of them is still good. You can use both of them in a team. There are many situations where Flocke is better, and the Memoria from Flocke's banner is worth having. So it's not bad to spend your gems here either. Also, for Izana teams, if you have to choose between them, Liddy is going to be much more damage due to her passive that gives, you know, like 70% skill damage to bulk characters. So Flocke is not strictly better than Liddy, There are many cases where she is better. There are cases where Liddy is better. There are many cases where they're about even. So if you have Liddy, you don't absolutely need her. She's not completely must-have, but she's still very, very, very good. So yeah, absolutely fantastic character with a recovery boost gift to boot. So really strong. Love Flocke. Very good. And for Roman tournament, she's absolutely essential. So we have the other character, Liddy, or Sue, not Liddy. We have Sue. She is a stab attacker. She is kind of mid. Definitely overshadowed by Flocke here. Her leader skill is at least good. She gives 30% to attack and defense stats to her category, which affects her. As an attacker, that's really good. You like that 30% attack. But the rest of her kit is kind of whatever. I mean, it's interesting. It's not bad at all, but it also, as an attacker, she doesn't quite do enough damage is kind of where she's at. So for one, her passive, it doesn't do damage at all. It's mostly utility. After using items, her next attack will delay the target for 1 turn. So if you've ever used Original Fears, you know how strong delay is. Delay is pretty good, and she gets it when you use items. It's not a bad, nice bonus, but when it comes down to it, like, it's not damage, and the main thing you want out of your attackers is mostly damage and not utility. Her skill 2 has a pretty solid damage rate of 375. It's not like Rises for 50, but 375 is very decent. However, it doesn't have any conditional damage applied to it, so it is just a 375. It doesn't have like extra damage for doing something or extra crit damage or whatever. It doesn't have crit rate or anything like that. But what it does have is when you use it, she evades the next attack. So this to me is the most interesting part of her kit, this guaranteed evasion on her skill 2. And it can be useful in really high damage scenarios, like really high area damage. So you don't have to put area defense on her so that she can live. However, like, this scenario doesn't really exist in the game, more or less. Like, it really doesn't at level 80 in this game. It doesn't really exist that much. Usually you can tank hits with the defenders. Usually your attackers can take an area hit. Like, there are situations where this could be very good. Obviously it evades counters as well, which is pretty nice. But overall, like, for most situations in the game, this evasion will not be particularly useful. But it is cool. It's nice to have. She is a unique character in that she's an attacker that can actually take hits. Her skill 1 restores item gauge and gives her a physical attack boost. Any skill 1 that gives a pretty sizable buff like this is a very decent skill 1, because you regularly need to use skill 1 to adjust timeline order anyways, so having one that gives a good buff is always good. And extra item gauge, never really going to complain about that. And her burst it's a really high damage burst, honestly. Before attacking, it gives her a permanent skill damage buff, and it has a 100% increased damage boost if she's at full HP, so it scales down if she loses HP. So it is a pretty high damage burst with double damage, 500% single target. It doesn't have guaranteed crit, so you do need to roll crits with it or have a crit support, but it's pretty good. I would say overall her biggest weaknesses is that she is a single target attacker that's not Rose Valeria or New Year's Mari, which means she's just kind of inherently going to be a little low damage as a single target attacker. She doesn't quite meet that gold standard of those 2 attackers, right, for single target, which in my opinion makes her a little bit low tier, because if you're not getting those super high damage numbers as a single target attacker, there's not really any benefit to bringing the single target attacker over an area attacker like Izana, right? So yeah, she's just kind of awkward in that way, but the evasion's pretty cool. She's like kind of a B tier attacker to me, so. But she's still very good. Okay, sorry, she's still decent, not very good. Flocke is very good. Sue is still decent. She's not bad to have at all. She does decent damage, especially when the enemy has a stab weakness. So yeah. Anyways, let us get into the polls, I suppose. Hopefully they go well. I guess we'll see. I did say in my last video that I was feeling a little burnt out because I hadn't had any good luck recently, but I did end up getting Roseval in a daily pull like a week ago, so pretty happy about that. Let's see if we can continue that good luck. Get the dailies out of the way first. The sacrificial dailies are always going to be quite bad. Well, not always, but they're usually not particularly exciting. Alright, our first pull on the Flocke banner. And it's a Tau. Good sign. Very good sign. Get Tau out of the way early. Alright, on to the tickets. And we have a bunch of gems too. Any winks? Got one. The solo Resno wink is usually not very good though. Alright. A whole lot of nothing. More nothing. Yep. 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 That's about what we expect. Alright. Tickets number 2. One thing that's a bit funny is I really hope I don't get Sue. Sue is the only Rose character I got on JP, and I've basically used her like once. Like, she is fine, but she is not good, right? Like, she can do well enough, but compared to like Rose Valley Zana, the really, really good attackers, like you're never really gonna use her much if you have them. But this is looking like more nothing. Oh, I see. That's this is so tragic. That is my 3rd Omple on this account. Why can't he just randomly come up on JP? And it's actually really funny because earlier on JP, I got my 3rd Patty, which my global account really needs. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Dude, yeah, that is my 3rd Omple. Very sad. Alright. The gem pulls will be better. Okay, we got some winks. Come on. I'm not seeing anything. You got 2 Cs, I'm so sorry. That's like what happened to me during the Liddy banner. I got 2 Cs and nothing else. No Liddy, no Memoria. Alright. Probably nothing here. Yep. 2 pulls left. The Omple pickup is like, it's so sad. Uh-oh. Alright, just be the biggest fake out I've ever seen. It's just nothing, is it? Absolutely nothing. There's a Memoria here. That's from the Memoria banner. This one's interesting because it's actually very decent being a 12-speed Memoria with skill damage when equipped to an ice character. If we get a really, really high tier ice supporter in the future, or just like ice anything in general, either defender or supporter, like this is really good. It's even really solid on Leela, but you have to use memory crystals, of course. Or, sorry, it's solid on the new Roman, like, it's interesting. But we don't have any, like, super high tier meta ice characters that this would go on. But that's not a bad pickup at all. Just for a random Memoria. Alright, final pull. At least for now, this is all the gems I have. One wink. It's doomed. It is so doomed. No fake out. No nothing. So sad. Well, we have more gems coming. I'll be able to do at least a couple pulls. But yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate. Alright, well. Yep. Cool. Pulls went really badly. One thing before I end the video. I have not released the Strike Tower guide yet. I know it's getting close to the end. If you do want to see my budget setups, I have them for the first 9 floors on my VOD channel, which will be linked in the description. I had to wait until this update for floor 10, because floor 10 is just absolutely sadistic under budget restrictions. But it might be doable with the leader skill update and a couple other things like Flock's gear. So I will try to get this released, like a video for this channel, like tomorrow or the day after. But if you really need, if you really want to start on it now, go check out the videos on the VOD channel for the first 9 floors. I did clear them all without any 3 stars, so if you like are really down bad, you don't have Corneria or anything, they will help you, especially for those harder floors like 7, 8, and 9. So yeah, go look at those, and hopefully next time we get better pulls. Anyways, that'll be all for this one, and I will see you all next time for Strike Tower and then the start of Academy, I guess. So, yep. I wish you all good pulls. I hope you enjoy the final part of the half anniversary story, and have a good one. See you later.